Ladies and gentlemen, let us answer a very important question. Can Jack get on the board before the end of this series? We'll have to go to the purgatory to find out. We've got jakulangski in the bottom right, Neblime in the top left, Zerg versus Zerg. Unfortunately, the replay on Sideshow, which was the longest replay of the bunch, did not end up surviving the cut. There's some weird obscure thing that specifically happens with Zerg that apparently doesn't serialize over to replays properly. So until we can figure out exactly what that is, it's going to be a little bit rough for us to cast ZVZ. But hey, 2 out of the 4 replays so far have worked, and maybe this one will be the 3rd as well. So let's just see what ends up happening. But the Sideshow game looked like it was pretty good. I mean, it had an infested convolvulus in it and everything. So you know it was a banger. But hey, if the only thing we can do is gather really high quality screenshots to distribute amongst the world, then you know what? I'm okay with that. Thus far, jakulangski has gone for a low ground expansion in every one of these games with this first Hacharosk, and this is against a pool first. So Neblime, it feels like this game is going to be very, very all in almost. This might be a very quick one. I mean, it's not technically all in, but it's like your larva production is so low, your worker count ends up being very low. You have to get damage with this. And you know what? Jack is going to be going for a pool after this. We don't see any gas being harvested, so we know it's not going to be like the Ovaleth Degen Zerg trick where you pick up a Kagrant and drop it, and then, then it would be in big trouble, right? Because the Quasis could just walk right past, assuming it is going to be Quasis. We will have a hatch at the ramp here, it looks like, for Neblime. Or is he, what's he thinking? No, he's actually just going to scout with that. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Because he wants to actually use his fast pool, right? He's only going to have 1 larva, though. It's going to be 1 pair of Quasis. Is he actually going to do, like, 1 Quasi into expansion? Interesting. We'll see if that ends up working out for him. I mean, my gut reaction is it's not so good, but we'll find out. His scout is a little bit faster than his opponent's. A 2nd pair of Quasis was made. He's going to make the hatch now, and I guess future production will be military. He can rally them across the map if he's going to do that. Currently attack moving. Yep, he's going to be heading across the map now. Or is he? Is he? Where's he at? Okay, yeah, he is. I wanted to make sure that the rally there... eventually we got to draw that on the minimap or something so we can actually see what's going on, but we'll figure that out later. We're improving. We're always improving this game. Jack's Droleth is now going to be waypointed correctly. I don't know if it was incorrect on purpose or what, but it might have been pretty legit there because he kind of bypassed the army. So that's why I was thinking maybe it was incorrect on purpose. Now he can move past the army. He sees the pool already done. He sees that there's no second hatch. So he knows that this was a pool first build and that he will not actually have the army advantage for a little bit. I do like this little play here. It's cute. He ends up delaying the amount of time that these Quasis have before they can move out of the base. And we do have a hatch being made as well. So going up to 3 larva sources, if you want to call them that. A little bit of gas being mined now for Jack as he waypoints his Quasis across the map, but the cliff advantage is going to be with Neblime as he waits patiently. Oh, he's actually done a little bit of a split. I think he was in the middle of thinking about spreading up his forces and looked away for just a split second. Burrowed units for Zerg regenerate twice as fast, so something to keep in mind. He's just prodding up. He's like, hey, are you still over there? Because actually Jack has not shown all of his Quasis yet, so his opponent doesn't know how much Jack has behind the back, so to speak. And now, if he decides to poke up there, he can actually get some pretty good damage, but instead he's going to move up to the upper middle, like the right side entrance here, see if he can shark on in to the natural after the fact. Now, the circuits is going to come on down. And circuits are a lot harder to deal with for Quasis than the Kagrants are. So there's a bit of a game of timing happening over here. Back at home, we've got some... oh, look, Zerg Shambler. Back at home, we've got some other stuff going up for our jakulangski. Can he put a lot of damage onto the Circuit before it finishes? The answer is no. And it takes so many Quasis to kill the Circuit. It's kind of ridiculous. So, keep that in mind. So, alright, we have the Quasis doing their business. Hydra's Den now on the way, so it looks like maybe Jack is going to go for a bust. And Neblime does have more workers now, so it's a den for each. Den apiece. Not that many workers here at the natural. One of them is not even mining, so that's a bit of a flummox. And the larva production here is actually lower for Jack. He's also making a Noveleth. Like, he's spending a lot of his Vespene. quasi count is superior for Jack, but obviously the static defense structure is a pretty big deal. We've got more and more quasis. If you were going to go for like a flood of Zeths behind this, there's like a timing where the Hydras aren't hatched yet, and you can like hit the circuit with the Zeths and then, you know, pick off the quasis with your quasis. Stuff like that can definitely help out a lot. But even then, if the quasis just focus down the Zeths, then maybe the push is over. So it's a very fragile idea, but it's technically feasible. Avaleth on the way. You can also choose to drop here. That is a valid strat. You can elevator in your quasis up the ramp there. But the push is going to come out, and the Hydras are going to outcompete the quasis quite a bit. So away go the quasis. The Avaleth's going to slurp them all up and fly away. And actually doing this in front of your opponent is not a bad shout, because in this case, Jack is still making his Hydra army. He doesn't have that much at home. This army could kill the circuits here and then pressure the workers. So it's actually kind of good that Jack is threatening the drop. And I don't know if Neblime just didn't pay attention to it, or maybe he didn't see it. Or if he did see it, maybe he just discounted the idea that he would be so bold as to load up in front of him and then drop. But he's actually going to get some worker kills here. This is good damage coming out from Jack. He should be able to get a kill, at the very least. And he's also denying mining time, forcing the army to move back in. This is great for his tempo. There we go, focusing in on the workers. I think he's killed 3 workers. You know, it's not nothing. They're equalized on worker count now, so there is that. And pretty soon we will have Neblime at sort of parity between him and his opponent. He does have 2 quasis, or 2 pool units on the map, sort of just scouting around. That Zeth was spotted burrowed on the ramp. It's hard to use a Zeth to burrow like on a ramp like this, because you can technically just like hug this side, but like, would you ever know that? Well, maybe Jack does now because his Avaleth flew over there, right? So that's something to point out. Probably not going to be consequential. More hatches on the way for both players. Neblime stretching ahead in the larva production yet again. We've got 300 gas in the bank for him. His opponent, though, going for the ski-backed. It looks like once again, the Droleth has been frustrated in its attempt at expanding. It's going to do a ring around the rosy trick. Hydras are going to come and clean up the Zeth. And this does mean that there's an Avaleth coming for scout. Nothing in it, but you don't know that as the opposing player. And we've got 8 Hydras roving across the map as more and more units are dispatched to guard out all of those bases. We know that the third base timing is relatively similar for both players, but obviously Jack's is a bit slower. He doesn't have any anti-air defenses. If he panics over here, well, it looks like Neblime's going to be a bit discordant with his attack. I think what maybe Neblime wanted to do is imply that the drop was going to happen, force the Hydras to react, and then stab in here and cancel the base. Would have been a great move, but there was nothing in that Avaleth, so he didn't actually force the issue. And you know, it's okay. It was the idea was there, I think, and you know, it kind of shows that Neblime has been thinking about this sort of thing. Maybe I'm reading into it. Maybe he was always just going to scout, but something worth thinking about. Now, double gas base for both players does mean we're pretty much guaranteed tier 2 at this point. Just needs to get to that point. I guess another thing that you can choose to do with your extra gas is just stick at tier 1, like we saw in that first Impetus match where Jack stuck it out on tier 1 for a very long time. 12 o'clock now being taken, or I guess you'd call that 1 o'clock. There's a real question here for Jack as to what he wants to do. He is going to immediately saturate the gas, which is kind of like what Neblime did, but technically Jack is going to be more saturated on the gas than his opponent, like faster in terms of that. And instead, this is going to be a little bit more of a mineral focus. Jack actually going for a Larvosk again, so he did end up making it in every single game. He made it in the uncasted sideshow match as well. It's kind of cute that he's trying that. I would say, again, to reiterate what the differences are for people who are new, the Hatchrosk is mineral only. The Larvosk is much more of a gas expenditure. It's 125 Vespine, and gas is more valuable than minerals in the early stages of the game, and often also in the mid-game, because gas is like your tech power and your general... Well, it's your tech factor, so it determines how much tech you can deploy. And tech can be your power, like high-power units, like the Bactylisk, or it can be tech in the sense of like just giving you more options, like, you know, if you go for tier 2, which is what Neblime has done. Avaleth once again roving on in. By the way, it looks like in terms of colors, we have snow for Neblime. And I want to say this is like dark olive. Oh, it's Beaster Brown. I was wrong. And dark olive is a little bit darker, I guess. Never would have guessed Beaster Brown, dude. We have like 106 colors or some shit, so good luck guessing them. Sometimes you can. Those were not on attack moves, so even though their path fortuitously took them over that Zeth. Not able to punish. Just moving around, trying to get some map vision, see what's going on, where the army movements are at, but we've got a stack of Hydras, nearly 20 of them at the high ground, and this base is going to get scouted out. Little forward post. Morzet's going to charge up in and reveal that there are indeed some Hydras on the tails. And actually, they've pulled the Hydras away. This is actually really good for Jack. He's going to be able to stab up the cliff here and take a little bit of an advantage fight. Maybe this will distract some of the army and reinforcements while Jack seeks to break the circuits. It's a roundabout way of doing it, but he has distracted that big Hydra stack, and that will allow the Basilisks to close the gap. Now those are going to be focused down. Remember, they turn back into Hydras if they were made from Hydras in the first place, which at this stage of the game you have to be. So the circuits get busted, but I think it's going to be more than enough. Unfortunately for Jack, he's not able to actually break that position. And meanwhile, we do have the saturation for the 1 o'clock location in favor of Neblime. Avaleth scouting around. We'll see tier 2 on the way for his opponent. He'll know that he is very much ahead. 15 Izira cores. Normally you would say, wow, that's a lot of Izira cores, but doesn't matter if you can't get up the ramp. I would say probably not. Oh boy, who's going to win? Ah, Jack wins. Love that. A little bit of sowing some discord. Although if he didn't win that fight and no units had to be dispatched over here, it might have been better for his counterattack. However, only a couple of Hydras got pinched off, so this is actually going to allow Jack to kind of bleed out some of these, and 14 Hydras just got started for him. So this does mean that this position is likely to be contested. I won't say broken yet, because there's not that many forces over here for Jack. He is reinforcing with a couple of Hydras. I don't think it's enough, though. I think there's way too many Hydras coming up here for Neblime. And the nest is just about to hatch for him as well, so he will soon have those Vilgoricores, those Matrolets, those Convolisks that he knows and loves so very much. All these bases being taken out, but tier 2 just finished for our Zerg player. Top right being engaged. Just a little bit of a skirmish, a scuffle. And on a 1 base deficit. Jack has been here before in the set. We actually have a Spire coming for Neblime. That's interesting. Is he going to go for Mutas? Is he going to go for Protathalors for artillery? Single target focus? I feel like maybe he's realizing that his composition versus what Jack has been doing is not necessarily the best, and so he wants to complement the units that he's been making out of the Matravel nest and such. He wants to complement that with some other crowd control or single target or what have you. Well, this Quasilisk will be cleaned up. Finally, we'll get another base up on operational here. 7 o'clock being taken by Jack. He's going to dive in with 6 Gosvalets, the advanced workers. They will be on the radar here for Neblime. He's going to realize, oh shit, what's happening over here? What's going on? And you know what? They're not too bad. They're not too shabby. I mean, they're very vulnerable. They're very brittle. But you can see here, they're doing their thing. He was just trying to see if he could land them to drop a couple K-Grunts or whatever, but it didn't end up working out for him. The Geyser is not going to get stolen. What happened on Sideshow is these units came out, and he actually stole a Geyser with one of them, and it kind of slowed Neblime down for a very brief period of time. But it was a cute move, but not something that was very consequential in his favor. So we'll have to see what Jack wants to do on the interim. We do have the Alcag Eteth coming up for him. So that's his move. He has gotten the nest as well. He's got a lot of money in the bank. What's he want to spend it on is the question. I think he might be saving to respond to whatever he scouts with these Gosvalets. Unfortunately, a lot of his advanced workers are getting bopped. I guess they're okay scouts. I mean, they move really fast, right? Right now he's kind of like skating, and he's going to go ahead and take that interior base. That's not bad. He's going to try to take this bottom left as well, but there is a Zeth over there, and that's going to, unfortunately, not work out very well. Mutas have been started. Oh man, the tier 2 static defense up here is going to be impossible for Jack to really breach. Neblime doing a very good job of splitting the map and using the many cliffs to his advantage. It took a lot of investment where he put a bunch of hatches down, but you know, once you get into this position, it's really hard for you to do anything aggressive as the other player. Instead, Jack is going to try to do what you know, it's the percentage play move. You take these high ground bases, you eventually take these high ground bases in the far left and far right, and see what you can do after you consolidate your position. But he doesn't even have 7 o'clock up, so it's really hard for Jack to be able to compete with his opponent. I mean, he's got 3k mineral float. I wonder what he's going to be waiting for that. He's making a lot of Zeths. He's making a lot of workers. Needs to actually get these units out of his map, make sure that he's out of his base and stuff. The Alcag, I wonder what that was for. He's making a Convolisk now. He's not very gas-starved. He just queued up a couple more Convolisks. He's got double gas cap over here. Only one is up here for Neblime. The Mutaflock is going to come on down. Not sure if it was spotted, but, you know, this base will just get canceled. It looks like a bunch of units are responding to that by moving into the middle of the map, but is it going to be enough anyway? I'm not really entirely sure. The Mutas are... Their Mutas are cautiously moving around. I think they were probably on the mini-map, and now, obviously, Jack is going to know because his Zets are going to get attacked. Oh, he just attacked his own Excision by accident. The Convolisk is not really ideal versus this. You want maybe Sikralisks. You want, yeah, he's making his own Mutat Spire for that particular purpose. You want maybe Iziracore, Hydralisk, and then you can also go for the Skithercore and Vithrilisk and stuff, right? So that's the... oh, look at this burrowing the workers. I wonder what happened to all these workers. Did they just get pulled off the line at some point? I'm not really sure. Only one Spraith. That's not going to be more. That's not going to be nearly enough. This middle base is going to get absolutely stepped on. The army has all moved back. Even the anti-surface attackers, like the Zethicors, kind of moved in awkward positions. I'm not even sure where most of them were or went. Is this hatch going to get focused down? No, he's actually going to kill the nest instead. Okay, Neblime's target selection on point so far. Hydras, Bactyls, they're doing their best to try to chase the Mutas, but this is not the ideal situation. I think maybe Jack has gotten overwhelmed a little bit because he's got so many minerals that he's not able to spend, and now his gas is too low. The Spire's going to get sniped. He just put that down. He's been given the ring around. Neblime making him look a little bit silly here. Now he's on top of the gas miners over here in this base, and the ground army's going to come on in. So, you know, it's a word of warning. Scout your opponent, see what kind of tech they're making, and see if you can respond in time. But the Alcag was made, but not used. You know, I definitely think he could have done something if he had gone for the Kagralisks, because they have better range. He's got some Matrolets over here. Okay, maybe he can still do something in this situation, but the game does feel pretty over right now. Neblime going up to tier 3. He's stepped on the middle base. He's denied this bottom left. This base doesn't even have any static defense morphed. So that's a foregone conclusion at this point. And sure, there is a pretty good army over here, and the Mutas have been cleaned up. But it feels like Jack needs to win the entire game with this attack force. And there's just an ocean of Zethicors roaming into the middle of the map. These workers never got unburrowed. He never restarted most of his tech. He does have a Spire halfway done, but, you know, that's not going to be that much. And look, there's plenty of reinforcements over here. The stream of Zets now coming on in. Choke him out. Bottom left taken out. Plenty of Zerg everywhere, but not for Jack. I think that's going to be it, boys. GG's called. Neblime will take it. I actually don't know who won the sideshow game, but it was probably Neblime, just based on all of this. However, Jack, I think, probably did some nice moves there. And we got to say, I've seen improvement from Jack. That last game maybe a little bit less so, but the first 2 games that we actually did cast were really, really solid from him. Even though he was not ahead at any point in the second game, but he still really drew it out and tried to... He gave himself some windows to go back into the game. He surprised me with his tenacity. And in that first game, he really did have the advantage in that match. So if this was a best of 3, and a couple of things went a little bit differently, right? I think Jack could have taken that first game. He probably would have lost the second game. He definitely would have lost that game. But that's still better. That, you're talking about the best, or one of the best players within our pool. And Jack... he's not even played this project for a month yet. So he's growing, he's learning. I think he's probably due a qualification into the Battlement stage. I look forward to seeing him against Art of Turtle later on. And yeah, we'll just have to keep you guys posted on who makes it in, who doesn't. So GG's.